Hey everyone, today we're going to get into polygon, line, and point symbologies. This will allow you to make clean and informative maps. Let's get into it. Alright, so I have three sets of feature classes. I've got points, lines, and polygons. Let's start with polygons first. So here I have a bunch of delineated wetlands. They range from class 1 to 5, and I want to classify them so they each have a different symbology. If I right-click on my polygon feature class, I can open up the symbology window. I can also open up the symbology window by clicking on the Modify Symbol button here. When it comes to a single symbol, we can do a couple things to it. The basics is just changing the color and the outline. We can pick from a palette of colors. We can use the eyedropper to sample colors from our map, and we can also go into color properties. We can choose our color mode, such as HSL, and adjust to pick our color. In addition, if we go to the color properties, we can also change the transparency. Everything is the same for the outline color. If we want to get more in depth, we can get into the layers. When we're in the layers, we can select stroke or fill, and we can select a couple different categories for each. Starting with the stroke, we can add things like dash effects. You can select from several templates, or you can create your own. The first number will indicate segment length, the second will indicate space length, and this will repeat in case you want different length spaces or lines. For instance, a 12-4-4-4 will have a long line, short space, a short line, and then a short space. An additional tool under stroke is the offset effect. This is handy for if polygons share a border. An offset of -2 will draw the border 2 pixels inwards, allowing a clear definition of the boundaries. This can be especially handy if you want them to be different colors, which we'll get into in the next part. Going under fill, we can also select something like hatched fill. Hatched fill will add a hatch to our fill. Let's change the color so we can see it a little bit better. We can change how far apart the lines are, and you can also adjust the angle of the hatch. We can also add in gradient fills. We could fill it with a picture if we had one we wanted to use. Now let's say I didn't want all my wetlands to look the same. In my attribute table, I added a field for wetland class. I can now use primary symbology for unique values. By changing the field to class, I will now have a different symbology for each class. If I want to change the symbology of all classes, I could hold Shift, select them all, right-click, and format symbols. You have limited options, but you can choose color and outline. If there are any features that do not have a class, they will be shown as all other values. If you remove this, they won't be shown at all. You can also format the symbols individually. Lastly, what you can do is you can add in effects and symbols. For example, if you want a layer over top of your other layer, such as if you want to hatch over a fill, you can add one in, go back to your layers, and then you can make this a hatch. In addition, you could also select graduated colors. Graduated colors will allow you to apply symbology based off of whatever field you would like. For example, if you want small wetlands to be a different color than large wetlands, you can do it in this method. You can break it up into natural breaking points, quantiles so that each color has the same amount of wetlands, equal intervals so that it's based off of size but with equal intervals, by defined interval, manual, or other methods. You can also select how many buckets you want it broken up into. You can also apply a symbology of bivariate colors. This will use two fields, such as shape length and shape area, and will color them based off of how they relate to each other. For example, big round ones will be one color, while the elongated will be a different color, because this has a long length, around, but not a ton of area. You can also use unclassed colors, which is kind of like graduated colors, except that it doesn't group them. It just puts them on a spectrum. You could do symbols, proportional symbols, and by charts if you really want. Let's move over to lines. For these water runs, which I really quickly drew, I classified them based off of string order. Because of this, I can go into unique values and add them based off of order. You can do a lot of the same symbology changes, but I would like to point out some cool features. For one, we can change the caps super simple. If we want them to be square, we can do that. They're now squared off at the ends. We can also offset them so they are next to the feature which they are outlining. And under structure, what we can also do is add in symbols like markers. When you add in a symbol like marker, it'll just apply it across your line. To change the properties of the marker, head over to layers, and then you can make changes under the marker. You can change the marker to a shape, picture, or 3D model. You can change the appearance. For instance, I might want my marker to only be at the extremities, but only at the beginning. I could then set an offset that looks good, and now I have a marker 10 units along the line. You can also have it at ratio positions, at measured units, or other placement choices. You may also want to do other things like offset it, so they're off to the side, rotate them if they're not circles, and make other adjustments. What I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to make 3 circles, and I'll show you why in a second. Now I have 3 dots in a row, all offset from the beginning. What I can now do is I can click on these 3 lines and save the symbol to style. I'm going to call the line style stream order, and now when I go to gallery, I can select it as a style. Let's go back to the properties and turn off 2 of the dots. This will be my order 1 stream. I can next go to my second one. I can then go to the gallery and select the same template. For my order 2 stream, I can then go into the properties and turn off 1 dot. And then I can just select that template for my stream order 3. Getting a bit more creative, I have a black circle followed by a smaller white circle on top. And now what I want to do for my third shape is I want to select a font. Let's select Arial V. You could then realize you messed up and really needed an IV or 4 and make the fix. Let's save this style too. Now the viewer can tell which streams are which order based off of the dots and the symbols. Now let's move to our last category, the points. Under the point symbology, the gallery has a long list of point templates. You can select and edit them, or you can go and create your own. Luckily, we pretty much covered everything to do with points, as they are just marker layers. I hope that video was helpful. See you in the next video.